people, that's a whole load balanced environment in and of itself. Before I go on, there was something I didn't mention here. Something we put in the integration addendum from a control standpoint is the best practices. There are things we want you to build into your app to help us with, with troubleshooting and tracking individual requests. And if anyone wants that, I can get you a copy of what those are, because we think those are very important, because they help you to build better apps so that when there's a problem, we can say, okay, give me the request ID that you sent, and I can look that up. We do a lot of logging. Like if we do 100,000 requests a day, and you say, oh, can you look for that request I sent in this morning? We go, huh? So it's important that you put in logging that you can track a request with a unique ID. So if we have a question, we can say, all right, tell me what the unique ID you sent to me is, and I'll go look that up and track that through our system. So technical support, this doesn't mean your typical 800 helpline. Ryan's job is to help folks to integrate, so to answer questions, to help with any problems you come against. That's why he's there. So again, I think this is a big thing. I mean, we've done some stuff with Google, and I think they should be shot. I mean, the fact that they say basically do everything through email, there are times when you need to have a discussion with people, or it would be much more efficient. And that's really what we want Ryan here for, is to make your project go quickly and simply. Okay? So I think that's a big deal. When people get this working in as soon as a couple days. A bigger issue is in your system, where do you make the call? What do you do with the answers? When you don't get an answer? The workflow issues, I think, are the big deal, not the you communicate with the risk meter. Okay, a couple of things that we think is important for you to just understand. On REST, the application can call individual reports. Okay, so you don't have, for example, obviously you probably only care about distance to coast in coastal states, or you may care about the distance of fire station in every state, or you may say we only care about brush fire for homeowners in California. So every single app you send to us, you can control which reports you want called back. Since most of our pricing is per click, obviously you don't want to call for things that you don't really need. So all I'm saying is your app should use some kind of a table to control, when you call reports. So by line of business, by state, have things so that you can on each address say, oh, I'm in this situation, ask for this. Geocoding, as I mentioned, you can get back candidates. That's important too. So that instead of you just saying there's no answer, you can say, look, I have a couple of things that are similar. Which one did you mean? And then keep things. I mean, obviously, as we move to straight through processing, people are going to automate as much as possible. By giving you back candidates, you prompt the user right then, hey, is what you meant? And if they say, oh, yes, it is, then great. Then you can move on and keep the process moving rather than having to go to some kind of a manual process. All RiskMeter reports are available. So, again, this isn't like, oh, we can do flood zones. Any of the stuff we do on the RiskMeter is available. Any custom data we use for a customer is available. Custom settings are available. So it's awesome. We can do everything you can with a browser-based one. Adding additional reports later is easy. Like I said, everything is modular in the RiskMeter. So your bosses or the business unit say, hey, right now I'm only interested in these 2 RiskMeter things. But the idea is that since our product is very modular, if you want to add things later, you're just going to get more XML back. You can call for multiple reports with an address call. So you don't have to say, here's an address, give me the distance to coast. Here's an address, give me the crime score. Here's an address, give me the flood zone. You can use an address, and I want the crime score, the flood zone, and the distance to coast all together. You're going to just get more XML back. You can get map turned as part of this. So if you want a map in your app for your underwriters or whatever, you can do that. And we have the functionality to zoom and zoom out, to move the point, to turn lights on and off, to use an area background. All that stuff can be done through that, the integrated services or the web services. And as I said before, you really have to just, a small percentage won't match, but you need to think about that in your workflow. Processing. Okay, so this usually isn't something we think about in integration, but we're doing some things that are really neat, so I wanted to mention it because I'm sure that this is something that in the commercial lines people are asking for. We have a website called batch.riskmeter.com that lets you submit a schedule through a web page. So now you go in, put in contact stuff, and upload like a spreadsheet or I think an XML file right now. Check off what you want, and it just adds columns to your file, and it emails itself back to you. It's really neat. We're working on something now, which I think we could do. We just have to document it, where we would allow your system to actually send us that spreadsheet without having to use our interface. So if you have an underwriting system and your commercial lines carrier that deals with schedules, you wouldn't have to go type in their stuff, say what they want, email a file, wait for it to come back. You can do all of that with us. You would submit, your system would submit this XML file. It's basically just peeling the wrapper off of our batch processing to allow you to submit that schedule by itself. And then right now, send it via email ready, but we'd probably make it so we'd put it on an FTP site that you could actually go grab those results from, so you can automate it completely. So I wanted to bring up because if there are people in commercial lines that are interested in that, we definitely think that's very doable, and we probably already can do it if you're interested. Okay, so before I go into questions, I'm at Ryan. I think I can let Ryan take control of my desktop. Let me roll to presenter. So I don't know how well you know WebEx, but if you go to share, here we go. No.
Share desktop or
I think you're going to have, once you, you should share web content. Okay.
So I can Explorer.
Yep. Okay.
See me?
Yep.
Okay, did you want to go through some examples?
I would just show them how the String Builder works and what tools are available to them in here.
Okay, great. All right, Dan went over briefly here. He had gone over the auto login links to the riskmeter.com. And, what was simply just a link to the riskmeter, auto logs you in. I'm going to go into an example here, which is more the full integration approach where we'll actually build a string. It'll send a request to the riskmeter servers, and it'll give you back a response in real time. We'll do an example for the XML since that seems to be the most common thing now. Click the string builder example here. You can go one of two ways with the example. You could do an example of the XML, or you could do the string to string. We're going to do the XML.
And one thing I want to clarify, the reason we make you log in here, you are actually interacting with a live RiskMeter account on the test server. So the XML, again, if there's custom columns you have or custom data, even as string builder, you're interfacing with a real account and getting real answers back. So that's why we ask you to log in, because we're giving you answers back specific to a certain account. Okay.
Okay, we'll do this here in Connecticut, and I'm going to use Geo. So what this did is it built a string. This is an HTTP GET request. If I click on this, it's going to submit it, and as in less than a second, we got back a response. And this is where the address validation would take place that we were talking about before. And here, can you guys see that I'm highlighting this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the input address we entered. Up here is the actual candidate, the scrubbed address that we got back. Important things to note here. Most important thing is geocoding is actually associating an address with the lat and long. And here that I've highlighted is the lat one. This is actually what you need to submit to the RiskMeter to get your reports, to get your answers. Here is the geo result, as Dan talked about a little bit. This is an S5, which that document that we looked at would say that it's an exact match right at the house level.
So what we're saying is that's these geo results we talked about. See that TXT geo result S5? So the first two characters basically tell you how good the match was. So that's the street level. Ryan, do you want to talk a second about the num close candidates too?
Yeah. So in the CD general section, important fields here, and the is num candidates. That's going to tell you how many addresses we matched this to, or just how many possibilities we got back. In this case, we got one address. But if we had typed in, 10 Street and there was a 10 South and a 10 North, we might have gotten back, 2 candidates. And in that case, this num candidates would have been 2. Num close candidates will actually break it down a step further and tell you we got one that we think is pretty close, and the other one may or may not be close. It might even be a next town over if you type the zip code in of a different town or something like that. Things in the C general, I could go into detail later, but really it's not something you would have to pay attention to in your application. Importantly, is just how many candidates you got back. It's an integer, and that'll tell you how many you can expect. So that's geocoding.
So along with that, see that text geosource? We use multiple geocoders. So that TXT geosource that says MMJ right there, that tells you which geocoder was used. So sometimes for troubleshooting, when you say what geocode match that, we can tell that from that field right there. Okay, next, keep going.
Okay, so that really first step when we said it's a two-step.
From the string breakdown there too. So the help is built right into here too. So if you want to know what the different parameters are in there, there's information on each one it is. Okay. So what the parameters they need to send in, it's all documented right here in the string builder.
Right, and we'll go into the we'll give you a peek at the full help after this, but like Dan said, this is just kind of a convenient place to include that information as well. Just what I was saying is, the string to XML is a two-step process. That's the first step right there, and that's geocoding. That's getting the latitude, longitude. Now what we're going to do is actually submit that lat long, and we'll tell the RiskMeter what reports we want back. And as we also discussed, you could get one back, or you could get multiple back in one shot. Get timed out here.
Yep.
Oops. Okay, this is just a little test selection page, and like Dan said, when you log in here with your test account, this is actually going to build a list of reports specific to your account and any customizations that you have. So the account that we're using here has quite a few reports on it. We'll keep it simple. I'm just going to show you the distance to shore. And we'll return a map too. Right there, just built us a string.